everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. I have to apologize for my absence lately. I've been dealing with some back issues. Now I'm back, pun intended, and I hope the withdrawal didn't kill you. For this week's project, I'm trying something a little different and a little out of my comfort zone. I am used to doing bowls and pens, obviously, so I thought I'd take a crack at doing a lidded container. In this scene, I'm using my Ashley Isles spindle roughing gouge to make the cylinder. And yes, I do take off my watch eventually. I was just so excited to get back to turning that I forgot to take it off. In this scene, I am using a parting tool along with some calipers to form a tenon to put it on the chuck. And I will do this for both sides, as both the bottom and the lid need a tenon to be able to form both ends, as you'll see later in the video. I haven't quite got to the point of using the calipers while the lathe is still turning. Maybe down the road sometime. Here I'm just trying to figure out the dimensions for the lid and the bottom so that it looks decent. Et voila! We have a top and a bottom. Now I'm just forming the bottom of the container where the lid will sit on it. And in all that time I had off, I still didn't figure out how to make a video without a blurry image. So, in this scene, I am using a Forstner bit to hollow out the middle. That's the easiest way I've found to do it in my limited experience. Here I am forming the top of the container so it has a nice snug fit to the bottom of the container. And as I'm sure many of you can attest to that actually do wood turning, this is a multi-step process and takes several attempts to get it right. And for those of you that don't wood turn and are just watching this because, well, I'm awesome. Yes, the multiple times that I take this on and off the lathe is on purpose. Sorry for the repeated shots of my cold shoulder. I have got to get a new videographer because I cannot for the life of me figure out a good placement for the camera. As you can see in this video, I at least tried several different camera angles, but we still end up with fuzzy images and, you know, my awesome shoulder. And now I'm going to do the same process I did with the bottom of the container to the lid with the Forstner bit, just hollowing out the top so that it has a nice recess in it. And you can see me using the depth gauge to make sure that I don't go through the top of the lid with the Forstner bit. Here I'm just evening out the top of the lid so that it has a good appearance to it. Here I'm using the EasyWood Tools Easy Detailer to make some finishing lines on the top of the lid.
Well, that That's a huge noggin.
Now that I have the top and bottom all hollowed out and finished on the inside, it's time to form the outside of the container. Now I'm using a spindle gouge to make the finishing cuts on the outside of the container. And just like that, we're on to sanding. Lucky for you, my shoulder's in the way of the majority of it, so I cut a bunch of it out. Here I'm using the Easywood Easy Detailer to put kind of a finishing line in it, and then I burnish it with the wire. In this scene, I kind of messed up. I found a piece of wood that I thought would work well for a jam chuck, but then I realized it was too nice of wood, so I went and found something else to make a jam chuck with. Here I'm just making a tenon so I can mount it to the chuck. Now that it's on the chuck, I can start forming the piece that the bottom and the lid will fit onto so that I can finish them off. Here I am just finishing off the top of the lid, making it purty. And then the finishing steps for the lid. Full disclosure, this is actually the second time I've attempted one of these. The first one ended not so greatly when I parted it off too shallow and ended up with a really nice funnel. While I was finishing this one, I realized there was a lot of tear out in the top, so I decided to sand it one more time and go through the process once again. Now that the lid is finished, I can work on the bottom, just going through the process of sanding it and finishing it off. Right here is a do as I say, not as I do moment. Never ever stick your finger into a rotating object that's going several hundred RPM. I like to live on the edge, what can I say? Now that the inside of the bottom is finished, I'm just making a jam chuck so I can finish off the bottom of the container. Here I'm using a parting tool to get it down to an even bottom. And then I switch over to a Easywood Tools square carbide cutter for a more even finish. And then more sanding and finishing. Apparently I jammed this sucker on a little too tight. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you my second attempt at a lidded container. Look how nicely that grain lines up. Well, there you go, everybody. Another project in the books. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to all of my subscribers. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. Stay awesome, everyone. Love to all.